You know, I always felt a little guilty that I was never able to cover Pokken Tournament as much as I would have liked back when it was on the Wii U. My Blaziken strategy guide was unfortunately my first and only guide for the game. I was meaning to create more, but other shit got in the way. But I have no excuse. Sure, I questioned some of the character choices for the game, but Pokken Tournament is a surprisingly deep fighting game with unique mechanics, a gorgeous art style, and easily some of the most badass super moves I've ever seen. It's sad really, by the time I found the time for it, I just didn't think it was worth it. But then the Switch came out, and Pokken Tournament DX came out with it. And when everyone else was complaining that Smash wasn't revealed, I was rejoicing, because I finally had my second chance to cover one of the more unique fighting games to come out, Pokken Tournament DX. This video will be intended for those already familiar with the mechanics of Pokken. Considering it is a port of a Wii U title, I feel like most people probably have a good handle on it. But if you aren't familiar with it, feel free to check out my Blaziken guide. I go a bit more in depth on the overall mechanics of the game. But with that being said, let's get started with a breakdown of one of my personal favourite characters of the game, Shadow Mewtwo. Shadow Mewtwo is an exclusive character created specifically for Pokken. He was once a normal Mewtwo that was corrupted by the Shadow Synergy Stone, and is the final boss of the game's story mode. He shares some moves and characteristics with the regular Mewtwo, but is overall a completely unique character. Shadow Mewtwo is a technical fighter, but is a lot more easy to pick up in comparison to other technical characters in the game. He has a lot of options at both zoning and rushdown and can adapt to both playstyles, his greatest strength being his ability to play mind games with his enemies. In field phase, you want to use a combination of Psy-Wave, Thunder, and Miracle Eye to get around enemy projectiles, interrupt approaches, and mess with people's heads. Psy-Wave is particularly good against rushdown characters. If you charge Psy-Wave to the max, it's difficult to dodge, deals a ton of damage, and goes through a lot of weaker projectiles. However, each Psy-Wave consumes HP, so spamming it is not an option. What makes Psy-Wave great is that it can be cancelled into 3 other moves. Pressing X in the middle of charging creates a vortex around Shadow Mewtwo that can catch out opponents who try to jump towards you. The range on this is quite limited though, so use it only when you know you can hit them. Pressing Y executes a slash attack, which boasts great range and damage and is good for mind games. Since your opponent may think you're about to shoot off a Psy-Wave, they may try to drop their shield to attack you, and that's when you can go for a slash to psych them out. You can also teleport with R to either close in on your opponent or move away for evasive maneuvers. Important to remember that all these moves also consume HP. Reflect is a move that can only be performed in the air and can nullify certain projectiles, but like Psy-Wave can be cancelled into 3 other moves. Flamethrower, which can be used as a great retreat option. Earthquake, a nice surprise attack that can be combined with his air dash for some solid damage on the ground. And Thunder. This move is awesome in field phase and is the perfect counter against projectile spammers because it instantly stuns opponents who aren't blocking, letting you rush in for a homing attack. It also puts a lot of pressure on your opponent because it tracks their position, often forcing them to block, thus giving you more options. Then there's Miracle Eye. When I first used this, I was like, okay, was that supposed to do something? Turns out it actually alters the properties of certain projectiles at the cost of HP, of course. Here's a showcase of the differences. As you can see, these projectiles which are normally meant for dealing damage becomes completely different moves with Miracle Eye. Your side projectile becomes a trap that can nullify projectiles and damage anyone who walks into them. Your neutral projectile stops in its tracks before recommencing the attack to really mess with your opponent's heads, while the back projectile exponentially increases its range and damage. In field phase, you want to stick to the side and neutral projectiles because the back one is quite slow to be super useful, but don't worry, things change in dual phase. In dual phase, you want to make use of a few set of moves to set up your combos. Shadow Mewtwo's most effective hit confirm in this phase is his low weak attack. This consists of 2 hits which come out really fast and with good range. His mid-air weak attack is also decent because of its large hitbox and can be used as a cross-up. His neutral strong attack can act as a launcher on the second hit with a particularly large radius, but it is a bit slow and gives you less options. Your other useful setup move is his dive kick, which can be charged for more power. Your main combo moves will be Zen Headbutt, which can be used as a great surprise attack and rushdown move. your previously aforementioned Psy Slash, and Psy Strike, which also acts as a launcher and can be extended for additional damage. Remember that back projectile I told you about? Well, it makes a return for his weak forward move. And yes, you can Miracle Eye the shit out of it too. This makes for a really effective pressure tool from a distance because your opponent will have no choice but to block or take the hits. What's interesting is that when you perform Miracle Eye in duel phase, not only does it increase damage and range, it also causes it to move towards your opponent. So your opponent may think you have missed, and drop their shield, and then you can just be like, psych motherfucker! This means that this move is effective for up close and personal attacks, and really great at pressuring from a distance. It's really scary the kind of shit Shadow Mewtwo can do to mess with you. And finally we have his burst form, Shadow Mewtwo X. In this form, it doesn't consume any HP to perform any moves. Some moves also have changed in properties slightly, such as his high strung attack, which is now a launcher. A lot of his standard projectiles do more damage, and his dive kick becomes, well, that. A few other unique details is that his block stance completely changes, and he walks instead of hovers in duel phase, which is kinda cool. And then we have what makes Shadow Mewtwo so deadly in the first place, his burst attack. Clearly inspired by Dragon Ball, there's only one way to describe this move: sexy. His burst attack is one of the easiest to perform as well due to its large range. It basically works on anybody in the air. All they have to do is jump and they're pretty much screwed. This also means it's very easy to combo into. Speaking of which, here's a few combos to keep in mind when learning Shadow Mewtwo. And that's pretty much all you need to know about Shadow Mewtwo. He's one of those easy to pick up, difficult to master type characters. He excels at mind games and raw damage, but is very fragile due to his low HP and high recoil damage. But if you're a fan of psychological warfare, Shadow Mewtwo will be perfect for you. So what are you waiting for? Go on and embrace the dark side with Shadow Mewtwo.
Naturally, if you felt I've missed anything or have any tips of your own, please leave them down below in the comments. But until then, good luck, and I'll see you on the battlefield.